Test match moving along quite nicely for the hosts after dismissing the West Indies for 181 this morning. They've already got the wicket of Craig Brathwaite, the stand-in captain for the Windies, and that's where we see the West Indies at lunch. 33 for 1 at lunchtime on day 3. And it's time to just look back at that session on the ESPN Cricinfo match day with Arun Lal and Courtney Walsh. This is going along quite nicely for the hosts. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. In fact, in the morning, they sort of flattered to deceive. They got a good start. They were playing positively. You know, the wicket didn't have very much in it, except the odd ball turning. But yeah, they folded up, and India positioned perfectly.
I didn't know Kimo Paul could bat, Courtney. Did you?
No, he can bat. I mean, he can help himself. He's a bit of an all-rounder, and that's what I think got him into the ODI setup at first. He can help himself with the bat. He's normal. He has done well in domestic cricket with the bat.
I quite like the approach, though, in the second innings from Kieran Powell. They've lost the wicket of Craig Brathwaite. Otherwise, we could have had a much nicer chat of a little more resistance shown early. But how about that for one way to play Ashwin with the new ball? Just take him on.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to be positive, and I think they would have discussed that or have a look at that and see the best way of the approach for him. And I think Powell came out and did the right thing. He tried to show him off his line and length a little bit. But, you know, I wouldn't say got the better of him, but, you know, show intent. And once a batsman is showing intent as a bowler, you've got to think about what you're doing and you want a bit more spot on. So, good toy and strategy from Powell. Unfortunately, as I say, you know, Craig Brathwaite got out just when he did, because it would have looked a lot better going in at 33 without loss. But it's a wicket that you expect the hard one to do something, and Ashwin, top class bowler, produced the perfect delivery.
Yeah, this is a conversation we can have regardless of the West Indies, because many touring teams come here, Arun, and don't quite know how to play India spinners, and modern day batsman doesn't quite trust his technique world over against spin. The approach, therefore, at times could just be for an opening batsman to take the spinner on like Kieran Powell did.
Yeah, refreshing and very positive. And like Courtney said, that it also puts a little bit of pressure back onto the bowler. He's got to think about his lines and lengths and trajectories. So that was pretty good, and it worked for Powell. But very sad to see the way Brathwaite was going, because I was admiring his defensive intent and technique. Lots to play for in this test match. And then, really,
what's happened? It sounds like such an odd sort of dismissal.
Really?
That seems to have turned. No, he just helped it on its way.
Yeah, it's as though he just guided it into the hands of short leg. It's uncharacteristic. He was neither forward nor back, and he's going to rue it, because this is not the way you are wanting to get out. I can understand you're playing a defensive shot and you're getting an inside edge and you're beaten, and then you caught a short leg, but you don't just play it into the hands of short leg. That will be very disappointing.
Even on the third morning, Courtney, it's fair to say this pitch still good to bat on. Chase and Kimo Paul showed that this morning.
Yeah, I mean, the Chase and Kimo Paul showed that it's still a good enough wicket to bat and showing some application. They showed intent, they were a bit positive, but I mean, even if you're looking now, the seamers are not, getting a lot of purchase off the wicket. They're hitting the right areas. It's turning, but it's turning a little slowly still. I mean, as the game progresses, it will probably turn out a lot more as well, but I think day 3, it's still a good wicket to bat on.
One thing we observed with the Indian seamers, and I'd like Courtney and Arun, both of you to come in, is the little bit of reverse that Mohammad Shami got, Umesh Yadav got in the first innings for the West Indies is not something we saw as much for the West Indies fast bowlers. Courtney, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, Gabriel Shannon is not the biggest person for reverse swing. He got a little bit of shape and swing from it. They did get a little bit in one session, but don't forget that these two kids are playing 3 tests between them.
Yes.
So they will not have a chance of mastering the art of that, or having full control or the confidence to know that it's reverse swinging and exactly what to do. So they got a little bit, but not as didn't handle it as well as the experienced two Indian fast bowlers did.
Yeah, there's no Jason Holder, there's no Kemar Roach. When you've got such a young fast bowling lineup, how can you sort of tutor them almost to make the most of off conditions? Anyway, does it go to the bowling coach, Courtney? I think you want to say something here. Does it fall upon the bowling coach?
No, I was going to say, yeah, the bowling coach will obviously come in and help us as best as he can, but you can't go there in the middle. Shannon, you can tell from his body language, was leading the attack, and he was trying to get as much as he could, out of the more pass on or whatever it is. But it's something that you got to learn on your feet as well. And you'll get the advice from the bowling coach or the head coach when you go inside. Your teammates on the field will try to help you. Now, that is where a lot more help can be given if your teammates on the field understand what's going on and they can encourage you and try to help you along that way. It becomes a little bit easier because everything has to be done out there in the middle. You can be told everything off the field of play, but until you execute well, you're still going to not back yourself as much as you can or should.
Wasim Akram once said the reverse swing is a team effort. Everyone needs to work on that ball and ensure that it comes to a position that it helps the bowlers.
Yeah, in more ways than one,
yes.
Team effort. We know the past history of it. But now, everybody's really got to work at it. You've got to make sure that you don't, tamper with one side and keep the other side shining and make it heavier, and all kinds of things are done to it, and it is a strategic thing. Yes. And coming back to that quickly, to that point that you made, that the faster bowlers, what could they have done? They could have been a little more disciplined against India. Virat Kohli will cover drive you for 4 because he's one of the best batsmen the world has known. So, yeah, stick with that line, stick it there. You're trying to compensate and then getting hit on both sides of the wicket, getting frustrated, getting no purchase from the wicket. That's when you've got to be more determined, more disciplined, and absolutely perfect with your line and length.
In contrast to the West Indies fast bowlers, Umesh and Shami seem to be the two Indian seamers that are most suited to this sort of bowling, just getting it to reverse. If you compare them to maybe Bhuvaneshwar or Ishant, Bumrah still new. But these two quite good in getting the ball to do something when it's not happening for a lot of other bowlers.
Yes, it looked like that. Shami got the ball to move this morning. He looked like creating problems for the batsman. So I think it's got to do with a little bit of length as well. You've got to have that ball coming closer to the batsman, give the ball more time to reverse. And like Courtney said, that these guys are inexperienced, they will learn, and it's a skill, I think, that you acquire as you go along. It's not something that everybody can do.
Let's talk a little bit about the batting now. Batsmen, when they've been made to do the job quickly, twice in 2 days after being put in the field and roasted in the heat at Rajkot, how much of it is mental? Just to, you're so far behind, there's
a lot of it.
One result possibly now.
A lot of it. But like I said, it's not about just this one test match, and it's about you as a batsman, as a batting unit, as a team. You're going ahead, you're going beyond this series, in this series, everything to play for, your pride and the whole game is played in the mind. So it's important and it's imperative that you give yourself the confidence and the feel that you belong here, you can handle these situations, these conditions, and you're here to stay. So you're coming into bat, thinking with short targets that I'm going to be there at lunch, I'm going to be there at tea, and don't think, how far behind you are.
Yeah.
It's all mental.
Could be about one partnership. I mean, India have hardly been made to go a long period, Courtney, in this test without a wicket falling. One partnership suddenly might just flatten things out. India might feel the heat that the Windies bowlers faced.
Yeah, you need a good partnership. I mean, the West Indies would have to try to put it together at the very, and it's not as if they're not capable of doing so, but you've got to stick in, concentrate for a long period. And as Arun said, you bat for time. You maybe say bat for a short time, water break might be the first target, or you set yourself target, I'm going to bat for 7 overs, then the water break, then an hour, bat till tea, and you take it in that kind of stage. If you look at, there's 3 days to go or 2 days to go, then it becomes, a massive ask. So you want to shorten it down, and I'm only saying that not that I used to bat that long, but when I was bowling, I used to look at it, well, okay, if I can bowl this spell from now till tea, or from now for the next 5 overs, and not concede so many runs. And then if you do well enough, maybe I can do 2 more overs. And you look at the sessions that you're bowling and stuff, so you try to narrow it down so it doesn't look that big.
87 runs scored by the West Indies this morning in pretty quick time, and they'll thank Kuldeep Yadav for it because Keema Paul came out sweeping and swinging. There's not too much that you can take away from these sorts of contests, but for individuals, beg your pardon, Kuldeep Yadav is not going to often play as a test cricket unless you play 3 spinners. He's probably fighting for a position or making a stake for a position in red ball cricket overseas. He gets these limited opportunities. Would you want a player to just get a little more out of it? Or am I being too harsh on Kuldeep? He doesn't quite seem to have the impact that say an Ashwin or Jadeja do. Why in red ball cricket?
I get the impression that Kuldeep has a long way to go. He is still a work in progress. He's got immense talent, and he's got this mystique about him. which a lot of foreign cricketers don't encounter and are not very good at reading. And that is his major strength. But he's got to get a little more work off the track. You know what we cricketers would call nip? That means, you know, when I go forward and I'm beaten in the flight, the ball dips on me, I still have enough time to go down to the back foot and still manage him.
Yeah.
But that zip of the fizz of the track is yet, you know, to be noticed. Maybe, you know, we're judging him harshly. What I've seen of him is on maybe slowish tracks, less bounce. But we need him to get that little extra. And once he gets that fizz, that little work off the track, maybe he's not using his body. I think bowling coaches, and I think coaching in India needs to be given another look at as well, you know, especially for the guys who are there at the top. A lot of us feel that these guys, Virat Kohli doesn't need coaching. Of course he does. You know, the best cricketers sometimes find a little bit of something creeping into their technique which they don't notice. And a person sitting outside, he may not have played as well as them, can actually identify it for them. So Kuldeep also needs that little bit of fizz to work on him.
He's a rare breed in international cricket, left arm wrist spinner Courtney. What works for him in one-day cricket, why he's been a revelation, is perhaps that he bowls it slow or the lack of pace. Somehow that can at times be a detriment in Test cricket, not having enough pace or zip, as Arun points out.
No, that's true, because in Test cricket, the batsman doesn't have to come at you all the time. He can wait and be patient and play the waiting game. So you do need to get just a little bit probably to one pace. So he needs to have the variation where the other ones skid onto you quicker, maybe a bit more flight. So that the batsman has something to think about if he has to use his feet or if he's going to try to read you off the wicket.
With that action, is it hard for him to generate more power or more pace, or does he need to just physically get stronger? What's he got to do?
No, you know, it's not about bowling the ball faster in the air.
Okay.
It's about getting that work off the track. Maybe just a hint of the wrist position. Maybe he's got to use his body a little more. I think the more qualified bowling coaches would be able to identify that. But it certainly seems to me as a batsman, looking at him, that, you know, he's, you know, something like what LS had. Shiva Ramakrishnan had that fizz off the track. If you were beaten, then you were beaten. You couldn't quite manage it. This ball is taking a little time reaching you, so that's allowing the batsman to play off the back foot, read him off the track if they're missing him in the air.
The problem is that all the bowling coaches are outstanding fast bowlers, so I don't know how much they had. Let me ask the Bangladesh bowling coach right now, who's got a heap of left-arm spinners to look at, but how much do you help the left-arm spinners, Courtney? I'm very curious to know.
How much of what?
How much do you help the left-arm spinners? How much time do you spend with them? I'm quite curious to know.
Well, I used to spend some time with them before Sunil Joshi arrived in Bangladesh, so he's now doing that, so that's well taken care of. But no, it's, as Arun says, you look at the balance, you look at their release point and how much wrist control they have behind and where the delivery is coming from. So you can try to fine-tune that. And sometimes it doesn't take a lot. It's not like you're changing the action or you're making an overall assessment that you know your body's in the wrong position and stuff like that. Maybe it's just fine-tuned in terms of where you're landing, how you land, the position you're in at the point of delivery, and where you can try to be or where it's best for you to be. So it's just looking at some small things sometimes.
Okay, let's look ahead to the session now. Shai Hope and Kieran Powell resuming duties for the West Indies. So far behind, but like we said, it's a question of one partnership. Word on Shai Hope, Courtney, excellent in England. Out to Ashwin, playing sort of the wrong line. A good player of spin, or is there a vulnerability?
He's a good player, he's a good cricketer. I know oftentimes, you know, when you're from Barbados, they say you're suspect to play against spin. I don't think that is the case with him. I just think at the moment, since the England series, he hasn't really had a big score against his name. He's been getting 30s, 40s, but not that century or, you know, that big 80 or 90. So he's probably lacking in confidence just a little bit. So I think if he can get a score, get something against his name now, it will give him, you know, that roller go. You'll get that confident feeling in that, well, okay, he's back. And you'll see a different Shai Hope. But at the moment, I think the mind game is that he hasn't got runs for a bit. So he's a little bit concerned.
Is it taking the kind of turn on this third morning at a Rajkot pitch, Arun, that you would be worried about as a batsman?
Me personally, no. Indian cricketer, no. You know, because this is just very normal.
Yeah.
But looking at the roughs, the odd ball turning, maybe just a little bit, it's not going to be easy for the West Indies, especially if, you know, left-handers against a left-arm spinner.
Yeah.
Coming in, Jadeja could be using that rough pretty well outside the off stump. And so it's going to require, a great temperament to hang in there and extend this game deeper and deeper.
I'm just trying to compare, but now that you mentioned Jadeja, just the way, again, it's when you said Kuldeep Yadav misses something that Jadeja gets,
Yes.
is that difference? I don't know if it's just pace or just how he's anyway known to just dart it through. Dart might be a harsh word, but there is something that makes him more effective on, say, a pitch in India.
On a wearing
very different
pitch.
bowler, of course.
Yeah, certainly. You see, he's got, he doesn't, see, back of the hand is a tough talent. So Jadeja is got more control. He's got more, control over line and length. So on a wearing wicket, where there is a little rough area to play with, Jadeja can be very, very effective.
All right, you go for Kieran Powell to do exactly what he's been doing, Courtney. Just take the spinners on if that's what he prefers.
Yeah, that's the way he's more confident playing. So he shouldn't change his game plan. If that's the way he thinks he's going to score runs, then he's got to, be in that positive frame of mind. And I think it's good also because he has not really gotten a big score against his name as well for the confidence. You could see he's a bit tentative, but I'm sure if the runs start to flow in his direction, you'd see a different trend for because he's not a bad strike off the ball.
Okay, and runs can come quickly on this pitch. We've seen that this morning. Many thanks, Arun Lal and Courtney Walsh. Get your thoughts at tea time, where West Indies have a mountain to climb. They're still significantly behind in this test match, but download the ESPN Cricinfo mobile app. Stay up to date with ball-by-ball commentary, and we'll see where this test match stands at tea time on day 3.